Okay, so moving on. We got the port nacelle that had a chance to dry. Looking pretty good. And you can see we got all the paint. We have all the decals on. And this one is all set. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the starboard nacelle, because we're going to have to do that before we move on to the secondary hull. So let's put this one aside. And all right, let's get the pieces for the because I thought of doing the secondary hull next, but I think realistically this will be the last section that we do, because we still have to do the primary hull. That's going to have wires. The starboard side nacelle is going to have wires, and then we'll bring everything together and we'll put it into the secondary hull. But that'll be the last section that we build. So let's go on to the starboard side nacelle. And we got the nacelle pylons. And one of the good things about doing this is we've already done the port side nacelle, so now we got like a plan to follow. When it comes to the lighting, we're going to follow the same plan that we put into the port side. We're going to have the light in the back, and I'm going to make it face the back to illuminate the back section. We're going to have one here. We're going to face it forward to illuminate that and hopefully avoid any hot spots. And then we're going to have the two that are in the Picard collector, because in the movie or in the show you can see the hot spots on the Picard collector. So the first thing we got to do is we'll get the parts for the chiller grills. Yeah, the only thing left on this tree now is the section that goes in the back, but we'll do that later. So let's get these ready to put in. Alright, so now we got to use the CA glue, and we're going to put that into... We're going to glue the chiller grills into position. So what I like to do is I like to actually spray a little bit, and I use a brush for the activator. I think that's a lot easier to do it that way, because in the directions it says to spray the surface, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it into here, and we're going to use the brush. So I like to take the glue and I put it on a toothpick, and we put just a little bit and kind of put it in the area. Yeah. Once that's all set, what I like to do is I'll take the activator and we'll brush it on. Put it on the piece going in. Yeah. Push it in, lock it into place. There you go. So let's do the same thing for the others. There we are. You can see how it's going to look. Looking pretty good. All right. Let's put this one aside. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other one. Yeah. Pretty cool. Alright, so that's all set. I think what we can think about doing now is actually turning our attention to the lights. So what we're going to do is, like I said, we got one of the longer lights that's going to go to the aft, and what it's going to do is it's going to reflect backwards, and then there's going to be one that's going to face forward to illuminate the blue section, and then the two in the Picard collectors. So let's get those ready, and we're going to sacrifice one of the LEDs so we can have the lead wire. And we're going to need one of the longer ones. And what I like to do with all of the lights, I like to make sure they work. So we're just going to take a second and make sure that these things work. Nothing's worse than getting everything in and having it not work. Okay, so let's give this a test, and the 4 lights should work. They're all soldered, and we got the 4 lights. So what I think I'm going to do now is we're going to put the liquid tape on. And this stuff comes in really handy. This is going to keep all the wires from touching. And we'll let that dry. Alright, make sure they're all still working. Alright, we can put all the solder equipment away, and we can think about hot gluing the lights into place inside the nacelle. There. I think we can think about positioning the lights now inside of the nacelle. So we got to disconnect the power source, and we got to run the wires through. Okay, so it had some time to dry and solidify. It takes a little while for the liquid tape to dry up. And now we'll be able to move it without it going off. It was going off because the wires were touching. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue the wires into this area right here. Alright, so we're going to take one of the lights and we're going to glue it out that way. But first, I think we want to glue put these right there. And we're going to take this light and we're going to be putting it all the way aft. We're going to make sure it's going to face forward. Now hopefully you can see that, how we got to get the light to aim towards the back. There. See how the glue is starting to solidify? And it's going to keep all of that in the back. So why don't we go ahead and I'm going to twist this. We're going to put this like that. And we're going to take one of the lights and go to the back, and we're going to bring it forward like we did in the other one. Alright, so let's fit it into place. So we're going to put the back light just a bit more towards the back. There. So you can see we got the Picard collectors. We've got the light going into the back, and we've got the light shining forward. I think what I need to do with the light is we got to bring it just a bit. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's a lot better. Okay. So, I think what we can do now is we can go ahead and we can glue this. So let's put this off. Alright, now let's bring them together. Let's put the lights on. So we have a guide. Looking good. I think what we're going to do is we're going to clamp it like we did before. Again, we're going to have to use the putty just to close it off. Okay. So right now we got to let that dry. Oh, we're going to have to wait for that to dry. And when it's dry, then we'll put the putty on. We'll use the plastic putty. Alright, so I had a while to dry. I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to take off the clamps. And the first thing we're going to have to do, let me put it on, is you guys can see the light leaks. So we're going to have to fix that. looks a lot better. The only thing coming through the top is where the beacon's going to be. And all of the bottom is covered up, so that's good. So we got to wait for this to dry, and then we'll paint it. We'll paint the seam silver. Alright, so it's had some time to dry, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up. See how the seam is filled in nicely. That's what I love about the perfect plastic putty, because you don't have to sand it. We got all the gaps filled in. I think what we can do now is we can actually put it to the test. All right, let's put it on. Looking good. We got the area where the beacons are going to be. So it's all set. I think what we're going to do now is we're actually going to paint the seam. I'm going to use the silver to fill in the seam. You can see we put the silver back up through the top. To under the Picard collector. We got to make sure we don't get the light. When that's dry, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put the Picard collector on, and we'll put the chiller grill in all the way on the back. And then we'll be ready to put on the Nacelle Pylon. Okay, so we had overnight to dry, and we're ready to move on. Looks pretty good. We've got the lights facing in the right direction. So what we can do now, we'll move on. So what we got to do is we have to put the piece on in the back. We also have to put on the Picard collector, and we got to put on a little beacon that goes on top. And ultimately, we're going to put the Nacelle Pylon on. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to do just like we did on the port side. We're actually going to use strengthener. What we're going to do is we're going to strengthen it by using the brush, paintbrush cleaner. Ended up working really well, and it's going to be nice and rigid, and it's going to keep the Nacelle pylons from drooping over time. They do suggest the brass piece, but I don't have that, so making do with what I got, I figured that the brush cleaner would be perfect, and I have a couple of them. Alright, so let's move on. There, so that part is in, and what we'll do is we'll glue it, make sure that everything is in place. The way it is, because it's snug, it looks good. You don't necessarily have to glue it. I'm going to do it anyway, just to make sure, and to keep it in place. Okay, so the next thing we should do is we'll do the beacon, and that is over here. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see that. That looks pretty good, and that goes on well. These parts fit together. So, why don't we think about doing the Picard collector now? The Picard collector is actually too small for the opening. And because it's lit, it's really noticeable. So, what I do is you see the Picard collector, and these little pieces are perfect to put in over it, and that'll cover up the light. So that's going to be the plan. So let's glue where the Picard collector is going to go. We're going to put the glue in. And that's going to go on just like that. Let's put this on. You guys see what I mean? The that little gap, but the parts from the tree are going to fit in there perfectly. And then what I'll do is I'll just touch it up. So that's looking pretty cool. We got the sides, the light beacon on the top, and we got the back. So we're ready to move on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start working on the pylon. So we need to cut the piece that's going to go into the nacelle pylon, and that's going to be this piece right here. There, that's just about perfect. So let's glue that into position now, just like that. And what that's going to do is it's going to help hold the nacelle pylon and keep it from sagging. I guess over time, the guy was saying on the website, even if this would have been solid, eventually it would end up sagging. So we put the same thing in this side. We've got the metal part of the with the cleaner, and it ended up working perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put it on to the nacelle itself. Yeah, that's better. Just to hold it into place, and now what we got to do is we have to put this into the nacelle. It's going to go just like so, and I think what I want to do is we're going to put some of the activator. Nice. And what's nice is that the glue dries pretty quickly. So I want to clamp either side just like that. All the clamps. There. Okay, now we gotta wait for all of it to dry, which really shouldn't take too long. And in the meantime, we're gonna start thinking about getting the decals ready. Okay, so now we're ready to think about doing the decals. And I got some warm water with just a drop of dish soap, which acts as a humectant. So this time we're doing the starboard side. Again, I so hope that round 2 models, whether it's AMT or Ertl, that they ultimately do the Enterprise G. That's why I figured I did this as the Titan. I figured that AMT would be more likely to do an Enterprise G than a Titan A. There, that'll make it a little more manageable, the way I'm going to do the sides of the nacelle pylons, because this is a real difficult piece. So it's better to section it off like that and make it a lot easier. So, all the decals are cut out, ready to go. So I think what I want to start doing, let me take the clamps off. Alright, that looks good. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to do this section. It's going to go right over there. In the meantime, we're going to do the bottom where the nacelle pylon attaches. It's looking pretty good. We basically have all the decals on the nacelle itself. All we got to do now is we have to do the nacelle pylon. Looks pretty good. And let's try to do the other one now. We got the decals are on. And I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and give this a couple minutes to dry. And then what I want to do is I want to put a good heavy coat of the micro cell. It's going to be pretty wild. All right. Like I said, I love the micro set. It smells, to me it smells awesome. It smells just like vinegar, distilled white vinegar. And you know, a fat guy loves things that smell like vinegar. That goes on French fries, right? Okay, so I think we're all ready. We're going to put a nice heavy coat on. See how the microset actually has the decal just kind of wrap around and almost like shrink wrap onto the kit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so it had a couple hours to dry, so let's check it out. Get all these clamps off. Hopefully you guys can see that all of the decals kind of like shrink wrap onto the model. That's going to end up looking so cool. I love it. Hopefully when she's done, she's going to look just like she does on screen. You see the saucer pylons, the nacelle pylons, the nacelles. Really cool, really, really cool. So my friends, I thank you for watching, and that is the completion of the starboard side nacelle. And what we're going to do now is we're going to probably move on to the primary hull. And more than likely we'll do the secondary hull last, just because all the wires will be coming together and we'll get it all ready. So we're probably going to be doing the primary hull next, and that's going to be really fun. So my friends, until the next video in this build, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the kind words, and I'll talk to you soon.